gonna put my fake here. Maybe. All right, I think I'm gonna say hello and good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Every hour of the day, we do talk about sustainable development goals. So welcome to the closing session of this year University Global Coalition annual gathering. And our 17 rooms process that we have witnessed this week. I'm Joanna Ragulska, Vice Provost and Dean of Global Affairs and the Professor of Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies at the University of California, Davis. And I'm also a member of UGC steering and conference committees. So over the last week, since Monday, we have hosted a series of SDGs-focused interactive discussions, bringing together many different diverse ideas, perspectives in our virtual rooms. Our goal is together to take an actions to advance sustainable development goals. And we have been sharing updates on the room conversation and progress through our website, and I hope you were able to connect, newsletter, and of course, social media. And we have also hosted a session, we will be hosting a session during the SDGs Action and Awareness Week in 2024. So we're already thinking ahead. This will be held in March 4th to 8th, 2024, to really share the progress that we are making and continue the conversation that was taking place this past week. Of course, a very, very big thank you to many of our moderators and those who have taken time to prepare and lead our conversation this week. Without a large number of volunteers and those committed to SDGs, we would have not been able to do so. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Thank you so much for leading these conversations and contributing to many ideas and many inputs. Without further ado, I want to thank Jacob Taylor, from whom you'll hear shortly, and Danielle Bicknell at the Brookings Institution, who have really helped us organize the 17 rooms process. And as many of you know, 17-room process has been taking place at the universities, governments, other organizations, both globally and locally. And they have helped us to create the moderator preparation materials and many other resources to really take the process smoothly throughout the week. So thank you so much. I also wanted to thank the UGC Conference Committee, which was composed of Sally Kermins-Valela of SUNY, Gemi Disu of Northeastern University, Sylvia Gallard of Carlos de Madrid, Luis Gillen of Earth University, Arturo Condo, from whom you will hear also of Earth University, Paola Visconti of Técnico de Monterrey, and of course, Drew Cartwright and Sam Karanja of Georgia Tech, without whom really we would have not made any progress. So thank you, and thank you again. So let me now introduce Jacob Taylor from the Brookings Institution, who can maybe share some reflection of the 17-room process. Jacob is a fellow in global economy and development at the Center for Sustainable Development of the Brookings Institution. He is a core secretariat member of the 17-room initiative, which is really this new approach to catalyzing action for sustainable development goals. His research focuses on mechanism of advancing collaboration and collective intelligence for global scale sustainable development challenges across disciplines, sectors, and geographies. Jacob is a cognitive anthropologist by training, with the research background in collective intelligence and social cohesion in human system and high-performing teams. He has received his BA honors from the University of Sydney, where it just happened, I was there last week, Jacob, and a Master of Science in Cognitive and Evolutionary Anthropology, and the Phil PhD in Anthropology from University of Oxford, where he studied as a Rhodes Scholar. So thank you, Jacob, for everything what you've done for UGC, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I really appreciate you teeing up the conversation today at the end of a big week for UGC, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you all in the organization of this experiment in spurring action for the SDGs. So I'd just particularly like to thank, working closely with Drew and Sam on the organization, in addition to Bemi and others on the committee, but then also Arturo Condo, Angel Cabrera, and yourself, Joanna, for all your leadership across this great network of actors for sustainable development. And so, it has been a bit of an experiment this week, and all of our 17 rooms processes are experiments in this, driving at this question of how do we help communities everywhere, anywhere, with the tools to take the goals into their own hands, and that's a big driving question. And maybe just before going further on that, I just wanted to pause a little bit and acknowledge, as we in this country get close to Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday, in my own country of Australia, as we near a referendum on Indigenous voice in Australia, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we gather in different countries across the globe. For me, as an Australian, that's the Wiradjuri Nation, where I hail from in country New South Wales, and would like to pay respects to elders past and present. So in that spirit, thinking about communities taking the SDGs into their own hands, I just wanted to share three learnings that we've had over the last few years of 17 rooms. And these learnings are evolving, and they really drive the work that we try to support. One is that what we learn most is that people are already working on the SDGs, and the SDGs aren't anything new, and in fact they just reflect a lot of the issues that people already care about in their own lives and in their own communities. And in that sense, it becomes more about why are the SDGs powerful when aligned with local priorities and SDGs. And for us, what we've seen is that it's, these issues in the SDGs are nothing new, but using the SDGs can really help communities come together in new ways. And they provide a shared framework. So they're evolving, they're not perfect. I think a lot of us who work on the SDGs know that some of the targets and indicators aren't quite right for all communities everywhere, but that's okay, and we work with the SDGs as a starting point for conversation. And one story I really think a lot about is at the University of Toronto a few years ago, when we had one participant in the 17 rooms process say, "Oh, I don't work on the SDGs, I work on poverty in Southern Ontario." And then the real aha moment was that, oh wait, there is a target and an indicator for your issue in the SDGs. And so that idea of finding yourself and your priorities in the SDGs can be really powerful. And then connecting up with others who share those priorities can be super powerful. So that brings me to the second point, which is really about the power of the SDGs to build community. And with 17 rooms, we think about community in two ways. We think about community at the level of a room. And really, that's really about a team and bringing a team of people together to take action. So that's a close group of people who you can collaborate with actively to solve a near-term challenge. That's taking a next step, not the perfect step, and trying to think about actions that are big enough to matter, but small enough to get done. That's one level of community. The other level of community is really about the SDGs helping shed light on the work that we all need to do together. So it's not my goal versus your goal, or it's not my institutional agenda or your institutional agenda, or priorities. It's really about what we can all do together to move things forward in parallel, so that all of these goals are moving forward, but also connected as well, so that we can figure out how we can help each other go further together. And then the third thing I just wanted to note, and something we've learned, is that the benefits of taking action together on the SDGs can be huge, but it's also not easy. It's not easy to pull together people from different parts of a community or parts of the globe, in this case, with UGC, to come together around shared action. There's a lot of inertia, silos, and incentives to move in different directions. And I think universities know that paradox quite well. Universities are often blessed with so many different research interests and constituencies, and sometimes bringing them together can be tough work to get the village together, but it can also have huge payoffs in terms of leadership at the community level, developing a portfolio of concrete actions that universities can take across silos. We've seen coalitions built at the university level, and universities and the stakeholders within them think hard about how the SDGs can help with strategic plans or moving things forward in a way that's bigger than just one of those parts. So they're the three things I wanted to share. And I guess the thing I'd leave folks with before I want to open up to any moderators who are joining us at this close, to hear a little bit more about what actions came out of the rooms. And if there are any moderators who are willing to share, I'll just give you a few moments to prep while I just share a few final thoughts. And that is really what we've learned about how to help make it easier for communities to take action. And really what we recently came up with out of a roundtable with 17 rooms organizers is this idea of 5 Ps. So firstly, it takes people, like all the folks here who have participated in UGC's event this week. It takes some careful planning, which Drew and Sam have embodied. I think fundamentally it takes an idea of purpose. So thinking about the why before the what, really getting people pumped up about why are we doing this in the first place. It takes some tools and products to help people get going on their way. So we're in the middle of trying to develop some templates and tools for folks to help making a 17 rooms process easier and easier. And then finally, it takes pathways beyond any event like this. So it's great to see that, after this week of brainstorming and action formulation, that we'll be checking in over time and checking back in March around the UGC SDG Action and Awareness Week. And then beyond that, the idea is like trying to find pathways for these actions to keep evolving and growing. So with that, I'd love to hear from anyone on the line today about the actions that have come out of any of the rooms that went on this week. So maybe this is a question for Drew. Maybe is there a way I can help facilitate this, Drew? Is it possible for moderators to directly come up and talk?
I just unmuted Dr. Hussain, but
Oh, terrific. Okay.
I think I'm not sure what happened there. He then disappeared. So the beauty of there he is.
Give me a sec. Give me 1 sec. Yeah. So can I talk now?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, it's an amazing journey and good experience with everyone. Lots of learning from colleagues, academia, and also those who have participated from various parts of the world. And I came from I born in Bangladesh and then obviously raised in UK. So I had a very good perspective what I have seen in going through the process in Bangladesh, and it's in the limelight, of course, for its development and also on the challenges it's facing, and one of the vulnerable countries in terms of the climate issue as well. And then obviously living in UK for a long time and growing and university experience and everything. So both sides of the world I have looked at, and I worked as well with the government and various NGOs and public sector, and here as well. So there's two different parts of the world. When we are talking about the developed country and developing nations, we have a different level of challenges. And obviously in a round table, we are all nice. I mean, when I was teaching CSR, I say CSR is a fashion. I mean, but that was when I started my teaching early 2000. So later on, we have more guidelines for SDGs and 2030 agenda. But I still believe it's kind of getting a fashion for corporations and various stakeholders that we need to do little bits and bobs so that we can sit on a league table and we can talk about we do this bit. Both sides of the world. But in developed country, it is better because we have more regulations, guidelines, more transparency, and more accountability. So we cannot escape. Someone in some stage, you are accountable and you have to answer for that. So it is better regulated in here. But in developing nation, as accountability is less and more autonomy, political aspects, then you can always bypass the system. But looking into from the holistic point of view, what I have found that the first things we need, those who we will be engaged. And obviously no changes in the world required the mass people. There will be a group of people who will lead it, and then you need rest of the people. So those of we would like to lead it, we need a genuine mindset. That is the first one. A mindset and training. And the second one is the relevant people, relevant stakeholder to accommodate us. Now, you and I have a mindset of applying SDGs or embedding SDGs in the academic curriculum, but then we know what is the level of extra work we need to do to engaging the community, student, training other colleagues and everything. But then the university is going to or willing to provide the support to that particular individual. Yes, university has a mission and vision. We will embed it. But where is the funding? Where is the facilitation that this particular people or group of people, if they want to do, this is how we will be going to facilitate certain hours and things. So that's what I'm trying to say, the mindset, the true mindset, and then who is going to host and facilitation. Then you can define it either way. Are you talking about the training? Are you talking about the funding? Are you talking about the any specific strategies to embed it? So this is the first steps I found that in both sides of the world we need. And the second one, especially from us in here, I think we need to be more transparent, and whatever effort and things we are doing it from an academic sector to whatever level, I think this should be a requirement that we need to make this open for public level. Let's say X university, this is their SDGs goals and missions and vision. This is what they did in 2023 and 2024. This need to be publicly available. Then they will be more accountable. There will be more initiatives and more promotion. That's what I feel. Thank you.
That's terrific. Thank you, Alia. Do you mind me asking a follow-up question, if I can quickly? Is a lot of the issues you described were terrific, and it felt to me like it's the type of set of problems that we'd love to see discussed in the rooms in this context. Did you in your room discussion this week, did you feel like you got a chance to talk through some of these issues and think about practical next steps that you could use to address those issues?
Thank you very much. In my room, what I have found, because I have participants from Indonesia, Philippines, India, Morocco, and few other countries, I think one of the things we found it, the required training or need for training those individuals in academic sector. I was actually in the room of quality education. So obviously many things came in, but I need to stay focused. But various aspects were there. But I think they all agreed, and I have noted down that there is a need for training for academic institutions, including the leadership. So many institutions, they are still unsure, or they're still not sure how to embed this SDGs, where, because, you know, in many institutions, there is still an issue of delivering authenticity, the quality education, good research. So while adding this SDGs is kind of a luxury, so we need to train those people. Also, some of them still don't know how to write an assignment, experiential assignment that can have an impact on the SDG, community engagement, and other things. That came up actually. And there was a comments as well that if UGC can have something or a next project, how to train academics in various countries in terms of leadership or practicing in assessment development and engaging students to that. There was actually a specific comment which I have written down as well. Thank you.
That's terrific. Thank you. I like that phrase of the SDGs are a luxury, and how do we move beyond that? There's a terrific Lord quote that is, poetry should not be a luxury. And there's something about equity and access that is really important, I think, in what you've described there.
Thank you.
Are we having other? Oh, I think Jacob.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I'm just making the call for anyone else before. I know we have other topics to keep discussing today, but if there's anyone else that has something to share from the rooms, that would be great. Otherwise, I can pass back to you, Joanna.
Do we have any other moderators or even participants who might want to share with us some of the reflections and
I see
perceptions?
Is it Aliki has come up on my screen here? Is that
Aliki Papas?
Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you. I would just like to say that we are hosting IFES. It's the International Federation of Engineering Education Societies is hosting the World Engineering Education Forum. I could offer a link in the chat where a lot of these conversations will be put on stage and discussed amongst industry, academia, and students alike. It's a conference that brings together various parts of the world and experts from various institutions and universities, and an excellent place to further this conversation, the dialogue, and try to find solution to the many challenges that were brought up in these sessions. Thank you, and I will offer the link in the chat. Thank you.
terrific? Thank you, Aliki, for that information. And that kind of speaks to this idea of pathways. It's like, where can we take some of these conversations next? And to have related forums and this kind of collective intelligence of this network that we're all part of is such a terrific resource. And so it'd be great to see if any, Aliki, if there's any opportunity for, if any folks in the rooms this week have ideas, practical ideas that they want to keep exploring in the context of of the opportunity you just shared. That would be great to have a real tie in there.
All right, and Aliki actually shared the link to the conference. Thank you so much. And I know that there is a question from Seema about how far is UGC going to help in capacity building programs related to various SDGs. Drew, you wanted to answer, or Arturo? I can just speak from one angle, and that is with Arturo Conda, we are part of the consortium around the SDG number 2, which is Zero Hunger. It's a group of universities that has engaged in the discussions. And one of the things that we did actually this year is students competition. So capacity building can take all kinds of different forms because you want to build the skills, the knowledge, the connections, the network. So we kind of expanded into really working with the faculty, but also with the students and creating teams, very interdisciplinary, interinstitutional teams of students. I don't know, Arturo, you want to add anything here or?
Just reinforce what you just shared. You know, in the end, UGC, the University Global Coalition, wants to be that a coalition of the willing, if you will, and all the universities around the world have something to contribute. I'll come back again later in the program. I lead a university based in Costa Rica, much smaller than many represented here. We all have something to contribute, and so the idea and the aspiration is that working together, we can definitely provide that capacity building, Seema. We need it. I absolutely agree with that. We all need it on different fronts. Jacob, thank you so much for your words and for your leadership on all this, because this is part of the capacity building, learning to work together, learning to talk beyond just the idea exchange and moving into what are we going to do together. We need to learn how to do that. We live in a world that has connected us in ways that before were not possible. When I was growing up, what we're doing exactly right now was a dream. This is something, for science fiction movies, and instead we're here. And so we need to keep learning, and we can build together, Seema. And my invitation will be for you and your institution to join us, and to find more ways to do this together.
Great. Thank you, Arturo. And Jacob, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your thought, for putting the 17 rooms together. One thing that I took away from the conversation right at the beginning was your comment about the powerful alignment that we have to build with local people and local communities. Because I think, again, while the institutions, higher education institutions do a lot, it's our work is with the community partners. Our work has to be beyond the borders of institutions of higher learning. One of the things we're doing here at UC Davis is voluntary local review with City of Sacramento, mapping the 17 goals. Sacramento is the capital of California, mapping and engaging and amplifying really what communities are doing, because the relevance of whatever we want to, how we want to advance SDGs is really about the communities. And I appreciate your comments about the lands on which we are. We are in the Patwin people lands here in California, in Davis, where I am right now. Although last week ago I was in Australia on your lands and your generations of elders who were really critical to taking care of those lands. So in addition to conversations that we had throughout the week, we also wanted to provide actually some opportunities for inspiration on what SDG action can look like. I already mentioned this UCG's focus on Sustainable Development Goal number 2, Zero Hunger. And we have this incredible international student challenge that really shows us the kind of project that the teams have developed as a part of the challenge. And they were so incredibly encouraging, but also kind of food for thoughts on how we can support the students' engagement with SDGs. And that was really important and very, very inspiring. So to really close our week, I would like to engage with one particular initiative called the New York Climate Exchange, which is really about developing a physical location where researchers, students, staff, and partners from around the world can come together in advancing SDG 13, which is climate action. So quick introduction to Dr. Shannon Yee, who will share the project overview. And if there is enough time, we can also have a few questions. Dr. Shannon Yee is an associate professor at the School of Mechanical Engineering at the Georgia Institute of Technology. He joined Georgia Tech in 2014, directly from his PhD at the University of California, Berkeley. So I guess we lost you here from California. In the midst of his study, he joined the U.S. Department of Energy Advanced Research Project, Agency for Energy. And during that inaugural year, as this was the first, the so-called ARPA fellow. So congratulations on that, because I think that was an important element of shaping also your career. Most recently, Dr. Yee is directing the Generation 2 Reinvent the Toilet, G2RT program, supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and was organized as one of Bill Gates' heroes, and was recognized as one of the Bill Gates heroes in the field in 2021. Currently, he is executive director of the exchange at Georgia Tech and leads research, technology, and commercialization efforts for the New York Climate Exchange. So thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon, and we looking forward to learning more.
My pleasure, and thank you very much for that warm introduction. I'm really excited to be able to share this initiative with everybody here with the UGC. It's a new initiative, so we were able to finally announce it in April, but we have been working at this initiative now for about 2.5 years. And what I'll be talking about is the New York Climate Exchange, which is a new nonprofit that was formed in May. Right. And it's intentional that the acronym is NYCE, playing on words with the New York Stock Exchange. Right. And as Joanna mentioned, a lot of this is really focused on climate action, so SDG 13, but really there's a strong tie-in to Goal 17 as well, which is about partnerships. So I'm going to talk about that, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of the targets that are identified with SDG 13. So strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity, integrate climate change measures into national policy, strategy, and planning, and improve education on climate change mitigation and adaptation. So I think that those targets kind of help embody some of the mission of what we're after. And this actually, I think, lines up really well with Georgia Tech's mission, which I just wanted to explicitly highlight, which is about developing leaders who advance technology and improve the human condition. And so with those kind of guiding frameworks, this is what sets the stage for the New York Climate Exchange, right? And the New York Climate Exchange is, as I mentioned, is a newly formed nonprofit. It was recently awarded the opportunity to develop Governor's Island in New York City. This is the last undeveloped real estate in Lower Manhattan. And I'll go into some of the history behind this, but this is, again, a physical place that we're looking to develop that'll serve as a global hub for the world to really take action on SDG 13, right? So I'll spend some time talking about that and giving you a preview of everything that will be coming. But it's a very exciting opportunity. If you look at Google Maps, you'll see this island. It's about 5 minutes by ferry from the lower tip of Manhattan. It's the largest island in the harbor, and it'll be a future home, hopefully for a whole bunch of groups. So here's another picture looking at Lower Manhattan, just to give you an idea here. This is the ferry terminal for the island, and it connects right there at the northern tip. This island is a very historic place. Half of the island, a little over half the island, is natural, and the other half is actually dredged from the harbor. And this was the location for the first fort that defended the U.S. Capitol back in 1776. So to give you a little bit of history, this island was initially inhabited by the Lenape people pre-1800, and then it also served as kind of a key military location to defend New York City. And so in 1776, it was called Fort Columbus. It's now referred to as Fort J. And its purpose was really to provide defense for that, for New York City. Since then, it was then expanded. A Coast Guard base was placed there, but then in the early 2000s, it was turned into a monument and then gifted to New York City. And what New York City has done since the early 2000s is take a large portion of the island and turn it into a public park. So the vision here is that this location really becomes a place for the public to gather, right? And what our vision here is we've now been awarded a 99-year lease to actually develop this island as a multi-university space. Think of it as a campus that is then owned and coordinated by many universities. And the short description, or how I like describing it, is really this is our opportunity to build the Starfleet Academy to address climate change. Right. So our first development zone, which is kind of shown here in the forefront, will consist of two buildings, a administration and classroom building, as well as a research building. This will sit on roughly 12 acres. The new build will constitute roughly 190,000 square feet of classroom, research, administration space. And then there's other development zones across the island that will be opened up for more of the campus over time. In addition to the new build, we also have been granted about half of the historic buildings, totaling about another 200,000 square feet, right? It's a very exciting opportunity. You may have encountered it in the press. There's been a lot that has been discussed about this, but we are still in the process of launching a website and launching a lot more public-facing things. You know, we have a 99-year lease, so that gives us time to kind of think things through and make sure we're doing it responsibly. And this is where engaging in stakeholders like the UGC early is really important, right? But really, what this is a very simple concept that the New York Climate Exchange, or the exchange in short, has been built on a very simple idea, and that is that collaboration works, right? 2.5 years ago, a competition was kicked off by the Trust for Governors Island that's managed by the city of New York, for universities to come together and develop this Starfleet Academy for climate change. And I was very proud that a coalition led by public universities, specifically anchored by Stony Brook with Georgia Tech and the University of Washington as really large universities, joined by Pace University and Pratt Institute, and then also joined by the Boston Consulting Group and IBM, kind of formed the core partners that then were able to start nucleating and expanding. We also have a number of affiliate university partners that are joining us in this quest. So the University of Oxford, the Rochester Institute of Technology, New York University, SUNY Maritime College, Duke University, and the City University of New York, as well as Moody's, to kind of help put this all together. And I want to also highlight the high number of community partners, because as Joanna mentioned, engaging in the local community is so incredibly important. And really, this is built upon this groundwork or fundamental foundation that collaboration works. And in the future, we'll need to open this up to many, many, many more universities all around the world, so they can have a seat at the table and also feel that Governor's Island becomes their home as well, right? So really, what we're looking at here is, if we're going to solve the challenge associated with the climate crisis, no single organization can really do this. It's too large, right? So we really have to forge a more sustainable future through unprecedented collaboration and innovation, right? We talk about how difficult it is to try to get everyone at one university to kind of get behind something. It's very difficult to then also get 14 universities behind something, let alone the need for us to expand this to over 100 universities, right? This is going to be one of those, I think, really grand challenges if we can coordinate higher ed and create the necessary partnerships for us to really address climate change. Everything from education, workforce development, community engagement, through to the basic and applied research that needs to take place, through the technology demonstrations, and then ultimately through the commercialization, scale up of successful products and companies, right? So we have to do a lot here. And I think one really important aspect of this is having a place where people can come together, a convening place. I often describe this also as a stage, right? This is an opportunity for us to be able to showcase and demonstrate to the world the solutions that are there. And Governor's Island is a really unique location for that, given its proximity to the United Nations, and given its proximity to Wall Street, kind of a financial institution for the world, right? So we have to look at both of those things to kind of make sure that we're grounded. We look at this, when we're looking at changing the course of our planet, we really want to make sure we're grounded in 3 strong themes or principles. And what we've chosen and prioritized is environmental justice and inclusion, climate interdependence, and focusing on sustainable urban environments, given that we know a large portion of the world's population will be gathered in cities, right? So really, we hope for Governor's Island to become this hub, this place of engagement where people can come together, right? This is largely a public effort, right? We've kept it with public universities, and we're very much engaging the public. We are very lucky to be seated with about $250 million. So seated with 250 million currently, 100 million from the city of New York, 100 million from 50 million from Michael Bloomberg and Bloomberg Philanthropies, and then 100 million from Jim and Marilyn Simons and the Simons Foundation. And we are expanding, taking that seed and being able to grow it into a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for multiple universities around the world. Right. Our approach here for the New York Climate Exchange is really to prioritize programs that maximize impact at scale. I think there's a lot that we can do locally, but there's also a lot that needs to be done around the world. Right. Think of this again as a hub and spoke model. So here's a Governor's Island, and the New York Climate Exchange is a place where people can gather. But just like we're leading out of Georgia Tech with the creation of the exchange at Georgia Tech, we are very hopeful that other universities will follow that lead if they can have a similar branding and having the exchange, for example, let's say at the University of Washington, or the exchange at Duke, or the exchange at any other university. That way we can start really living this hub and spoke model. And to do that, we can underpin it with a couple of programs. One of those programs is a research and technology accelerator. How do we get the solutions that universities and others are developing and show them? Right, show them to investors, show them to people along Wall Street, show them to the general public, so people can get confidence and start trusting some of the technology that's there. Education is incredibly important. We're envisioning creating a climate solutions fellowship to provide leadership opportunities and training to the next generation of researchers and leaders. right? We're also looking at a climate solutions semester that would emulate kind of a study abroad program and allow students to come and live on the island and take classes from all of our respective universities. The New York Climate Exchange will not be a degree granting institution. That will still be granted, the degrees will still be granted by all of the partner institutions. This is just an opportunity to come together and exchange knowledge. So you may have a faculty member from the University of Washington teaching courses to partner students like students from Georgia Tech, right? We're also engaged in a lot of K-12 climate solution experiences. Currently on the island, there is a K-12 school where students from all the different boroughs are ferried in, and they actually have class on the island. So we can engage all the way down to that K-12 level. And we're also looking at upskilling the existing workforce. So having climate solution workforce training for the public to have more of a green workforce training opportunity, right? Additionally, pairing up with some of the startup companies that'll be coming out of this technology and research accelerator, looking at climate solution internships. Right, so giving students an opportunity to really get in and work with some of these companies that would be demonstrating on the island. And finally, looking at this as a climate solution cultural assembly. So really allowing this to be a place where artists and others can display data and really have a call to action through visual and performing arts. So those are some of the initial programs, and it really cuts across education, research, commercialization, workforce development, and of course, public programming and engagement, right? I think this location is very unique. As I mentioned, it's in proximity to the United Nations, and I can imagine during every UNGA, once the conference centers and things are built, that this would be a place that can host many of this. So it's a very, very visible site. We want to keep it open and accessible to the publics, as there's already an existing public park and historic spaces. And we really want this to be a model for sustainability and resiliency. Having to address climate solutions in a coastal urban environment like New York City, right, is definitely a challenge, right? But we're aiming to do that in a way where the rest of the world can kind of use this as inspiration and see what works and what may not work. Right. So it really is embodied with that concept of an exchange and how we exchange for research, education, public engagements, and becoming this hub and spoke model. So I mentioned these pillars in particular, but we're really able to rally with these pillars around a mission, which is to confront urban climate impacts and issues of environmental justice, where we're looking to break down silos through an innovative, scalable, and sustainable model that will rapidly develop new urban climate solutions. And we're focusing on the urban aspect, given a large number of people that are likely to live in urban environments. Right. So I wanted to take a few more minutes here and kind of show you what this future vision looks like. Right. As I mentioned, this is Governor's Island. Our first build, new construction, will be this wave-like building. And this building, we've leaned into the Living Building Challenge, specifically Living Building Challenge 4.0. And this will be the first living building in the state of New York and the largest living building ever attempted in the world. Right. For those of you who may not be aware, a living building is a regenerative space that actually gives back more to the environment than it consumes. And so I'll go into a few more details there. But a lot of the inspiration is actually based upon the building I'm at currently here at Georgia Tech, the Candida building, which is the only building in the Southeast that has achieved the living building standard. It is one of 29 buildings around the world. So we're trying to expand what we've learned and been able to accomplish and exchange that knowledge with the world, right? As I mentioned, about half of this, about 44% is new build, 56% is adaptive reuse. We have historic buildings dating back to the 1800s. We will be having a space for student life, faculty housing as well. There's a theater and auditorium and much more that I'll show in a little bit as well. But giving you a picture of this, the city is going to help us refurbish Yankee Pier, which will be how you enter campus, right? On the right side, you'll see the classrooms and administrative buildings. On the left side is where you see the research space. And one of the main goals here is that approach allows you to really get immersed in this park-like atmosphere, this campus, where you'll have technology demonstrations. So engaging the public is an incredibly important mission that needs to be done with this campus. So this is the main entrance to the exchange. You also have the opportunity to look out. This is looking out from, I believe, this is the South Building, looking out from the South Building towards the Historic District, where we have historic buildings from Fort J that are going to be converted into student housing and faculty housing. Right. Here's an example of one of those historic buildings. This is historic Liggett Hall. This is where design labs will be, climate labs, as well as different restaurants on campus. Right. We're really embracing the shoreline. And so having research and exploration engaged with that shoreline, I think, is really, really important. And you can see it's all really about trying to connect campus with that waterfront and that unique harbor. And really, this is, as I've been highlighting, a place for public participation, public engagement. We need to share the climate solutions with everybody. So we're maintaining that public access. There's a number of things that we're doing to make sure we're a model for sustainability. One of those is this will be about 85% lower greenhouse gas emissions than a typical New York City building because of the Living Building Challenge. We're looking to use less energy. This will be the first large-scale mass timber construction in all of New York City. Because it's a living building, we will generate 100%. 100% of our water will be recycled, and we'll do our own wastewater treatment. 100% of our energy demand will be met with the solar that we install, and we're going to be diverting a lot of waste away from landfills. So we have to treat our own waste, and so this will be the very first Living Building Challenge certification in New York that we're very much committed to doing. And to let you know, the Living Building Challenge is kind of a true certification. It's based upon performance, not just design. Right. So there's a lot across the island. This is our first development zone, where we'll have a historic theater, historic gymnasium, classroom space, research building space, faculty housing, student life and student housing, and then demonstration labs, field science labs, all of those embedded in the research spaces. Right. Right now, we're still going through a lot of the design with engineers and architects, but it's a pretty ambitious goal with about just over 400,000 square feet to develop. And we're kind of off to the races there. So to give you an idea of what's coming and where are we, as I said, we've been working on this for about the last 2.5 years, and we were able to launch after getting approval from the city in May of 2023. So just this last May. We've spent the summer, the last 100 days, lining up many of our programs, which we call as part of our Phase 0 efforts, right? And we hope to have all of that Phase 0 programming and additional fundraising complete by 2025, so just in about 2 years, right? Then we hope to open campus once the initial construction is complete in the summer of 2028. And then from 2028 and beyond, we'll have about another 96 years of a future where we can come together. So looking to the future, one of the goals with the New York Climate Exchange is to expand our partnerships to more non-US based universities, as well as embracing other universities based in the US. And that's what we'll be working on over the next year, is to figure out what is that pathway that we can walk down to welcome more universities and groups to the New York Climate Exchange and proliferate this hub and spoke model as we look to address UN SDG 13. And with that, I think I can pause here and take any questions that there may be. Oh, just looked at the clock. Sorry about running over.
We always appreciate good story. Arturo, it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Joanna, and thank you so much, Shannon, for that inspiring presentation. Since the first time I heard you about the New York climate change, I keep finding more opportunities for new things to do, and I have to say that deeply appreciate the longer term perspective, and that's, you know, we need to think about legacy. I don't want to consider myself old, but clearly in this call and in this initiative, we have much younger people. And we need to think long term. We need to think 100 years, and we won't be here. That's the point. That is the point. That's why we haven't been doing enough of humanity, I mean, in general. And so it's inspiring. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing. And I encourage anyone who is interested to follow up and reach out. This will take years. Again, the longer term perspective implies that for sure. But it's one great example of what focusing on one particular SDG can reach the world, and also touch so many other SDGs. As we discussed before, when we first talked, you know, food is a big part of climate change, of course, and it can be a very integral part of what the New York climate change could be. Looking forward to that. I loved your idea, you know, for UNGA having been there in person and meeting. And I also like the Starfleet Academy analogy, by the way.
Yep.
My nerdy part, the nerdy part of me celebrates that. So thank you so much. We're indeed running out of time, but it's been an incredible week. I mean, this was in a way an experiment. We're using the 17 rooms methodology, 17 Zooms in this case, you know, doing it virtual. We need to experiment. We need to try different things. We need to invite and connect through different means, and we're learning. We're learning a lot and moving along. And of course, some things were more attended, some things were more active and engaged, and that is life. One thing one learns is that we need to keep going. Is the only thing we can do. Take stock and start again. And so I'm not gonna repeat all the things that Joanna already expressed, but I do want to echo the gratitude to a multitude of individuals and leaders who made this week possible. I want to especially thank my colleagues at the conference committee, Joanna as the co-chair of the committee, the amazing leadership at Georgia Tech, Sam, Drew, the colleagues. But I want in particular to thank Drew Cartwright, who has been the heart and soul of this process now for 4 years in a row. Thank you so much, Drew, for making all this happen and keeping us all on track. And this, you know, it's not easy. It's herding cats to some extent. So thank you so much. And then I want to thank everyone for joining us today, everyone who joined us along the week, everyone who was involved, everyone who has an idea. Thanks for the questions and the comments and the suggestions in the Q&A tool this morning, evening, afternoon. I hope you, as we are, leave inspired for a new step to take action. This is a long-term journey. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And we need to keep hope alive. We need to keep movement alive and hope alive. Every small action contribute. Many small actions will create a big impact. In the near future, we'll be sharing a short report from this week with proposed actions from the different sessions. So please stay engaged. Look at your inboxes. Look out for those. And on behalf of the UGC Conference Committee, again, we appreciate your time and your commitment this week. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. Enjoy the rest of your day. For some of you already evening, the beginning of the weekend. Thank God it's Friday. And so take care and please be safe.